Good morning, everyone, and can I welcome you to the Ulster Society of Chartered Accountants webinar on the value of health and wellbeing. For those of you who don't know me, I am John Mallers and I'm convener of the Accountants and Business Subcommittee of the Society. This morning, we're going to step away from some of the technical content that we've been looking at, and as part of Mental Health Awareness Week, we will be looking at the importance of both mental and physical health and wellbeing, and the benefit of that both to the individual and to the corporate. I'm glad to say that we have 122 registered for this morning's session, and I'm delighted that we will be shortly hearing from Dr Jonny Bloomfield from Support to Perform. With a background in sports science and having worked with both Ulster and England rugby, Johnny is a real expert in his subject area, and personally, having been through one of his programs, I have no doubt that we can all expect some challenge and hopefully some motivation this morning to give some thought and time to both our own health and well-being and that of our teams and colleagues. Following Johnny's presentation, we will hear from Malc Stamper, Head of Corporate Brand with Etex, who have recently implemented a program of staff engagement and corporate well-being across their international business. So it'll be good to hear just how Malc and Etex have went about formalising and implementing that across a number of employees and locations. We will, as always, have time at the end for your questions, so please do submit any that you have as we move through the session via the Q&A function on Zoom. Finally, before we move on in this virtual world, I should remind you all that these sessions are being recorded, and the recording will be available afterwards, and we will also share the slides afterwards with all attendees. So look, not wanting to take up any more time, I will now hand over to Johnny. Johnny, over to you.
Morning, John. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. All right. Shall I, without any further ado, let's just dive in and get going. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much to both John and Karen for the invitation, but for everybody who's giving up their time this morning to come and hear this talk. Both Malc and myself are both looking forward to presenting this case for health and well-being at work today. Beyond that minimum tick boxes to the actual impacting the whole way, the way the whole organization can actually function and thrive and function really well. So Malc and I are both going to talk for about 20 minutes each, and then we're happy to take all your questions, even if we don't have all the answers. So thanks very much for tuning in this morning, giving up your time, or if you're listening back to the recording. We both really hope you enjoy this session, and there's our QR codes there. We'll take you to our LinkedIn. We hope that you'll connect with us at some point during the presentation. All right, shall we get going? As John just highlighted, it is Mental Health Awareness Week. I'm sure everyone on this call is aware of that fact, but it's worth drawing attention to this year's theme and the impact that it can have on all aspects of our health. So the Mental Health Foundation chose this year's theme to be nature, based on the research on the mental health impacts of the pandemic. And this is the results were showing that going for walks outside was one of the top coping strategies, and 45% of people reported that just being in a green space had been vital for their mental health. Even websites which showed footage of wildlife saw increases of over 2,000%. And wider studies also find that during the various lockdowns, people not only were spending more time in nature, but they were also noticing it more as well. But how does this relate to business? Karen, if you wouldn't mind throwing up our first very quick poll. All polls are anonymous. We just want to gauge a bit of a flavour of who's in the room and what are your views. But I would just love to know the answer to, or what people's view is to this first question. So are employers responsible for their staff's well-being? It's a bit of a loaded question. I'm sure this question probably creates more questions, but let's just stick with yes, no, or it's a grey area for the moment. Karen, can you reveal those results? Interesting. Okay, so only 3% saying no, and it's a pretty even split between yes and it is a grey area. So maybe that'll be very interesting for our conversation later on, I think. So let's build the case. Here we go. So I'm sure everyone in this room here today resonates with pain that is in front of all employers. So pre-COVID, businesses were already starting to place greater value on employee well-being, like we'd never seen before. And this was due to the compelling evidence indicating that just healthy, happy employees not only produce a better return on investment, so your salary and the various benefits you gain from your employment, but it also reduces expenses like sick pay, insurance, and the loss of productivity, of course. So furthermore, organizations were also paying particular attention to how it impacts their culture and their brand appeal. That's why we've got Malcolm on the call today as well. And their ability to attract and retain talent in a very fiercely competitive environment for recruiting and retaining, good people, as well as keeping hold of the existing employees and keeping them motivated and highly engaged with the mission. So the cost of losing just one member of staff is said to be around 30% of their salary, and that's on top of the loss of productivity from someone leaving, the strain of others, people picking up the slack, and the impact it has on the customer. I've over the last 18 months, I've worked with and interviewed a number of HR managers or talent and culture people or branding managers, this to kind of confirm these current and the future issues that we're going to have. And this has only been further stressed and strained by the COVID situation and the likely future working conditions, with almost a third of workers expected to continue working flexible hours and from home. The recent data from the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development indicates a significant increase in the number of reported instances of mental ill health in 2019. So we've seen this rise year on year. And obviously COVID has accelerated that as well, or is predicted to it at least. In both large and small organizations, mental health appears to be deteriorating more in the larger organizations, with about 7 in 10 employees experiencing an increase in reported mental health conditions over the past year. So we're going to hear from Malk later. Malk looks after 13,000 employees across 42 countries. So it'll be interesting to see if he's noticed what impact he's seen on a global scale of this. And then we're in an accountant's talk, so let's talk numbers a little bit. So Deloitte has revealed a positive business case for employers to invest in staff well-being. According to the 2020 report, they're refreshing the case for investment. Employers can expect to get an average return of £5 for every £1 spent, up from the average of 4 to 1 in 2017. And Deloitte confirmed the rising cost of poor mental health in the UK, corresponding to the CIPD unveiling there. It's now costing up to £45 billion, and that's made up of about 7 billion in absence costs and between 27 and 29 billion in presenteeism costs, around 9 billion in turnover costs. And that represents an increase of about 6 billion or 16% compared to their 2017 findings. Where they're coming from, really, the average per employee cost of mental health in the public sector is slightly higher than in the private sector, 1,700 compared to 1,600. That was also revealed in the Deloitte report. And the largest contributor to costs across both sectors is presenteeism. So that's the turning up for work, showing up, but not being productive. And in fact, probably the worst type of presenteeism is the disengaged presenteeism, where they turn up and they cause a more of a toxic and type style environment because they don't want to be there. And that presenteeism accounts for about 2/3 of total costs. The cost of leaveism, the technology-enabled always-on workplace culture, is also rising. And both leaveism and presenteeism are closely linked to employee burnout, which can result in employers losing highly engaged talent, of course. So, wellness programs are on the rise, well-being is seen as more important. But my next poll here, I just want to ask the question, should well-being programs always provide a direct return on investment? But basically, we have this approach that if we were to spend any money in the area of well-being, we need to see a return on that investment. And we saw some of the figures a few slides ago there by Deloitte, you know, that 5-to-1 return. But if you're investing in well-being, is it a simple, direct assessment of healthcare costs or absence costs? Or is there more of a shift to this VOI, to the value on investment approach? It's more indirect. It's what impact did this program or this intervention have on the entire culture, the environment, the engagement, the retention of staff, how it impacts the business carbon footprint, and ultimately how does it shift job performance? Much more indirect, but it's clearly a valid reason why spending in the area of well-being is a good decision. But I would love to hear your views. Maybe we'll wait for our Q&A, whether we'll return to this idea of should wellness programs have an ROI, or is it sufficient enough to have a VOI? Looking at approaches, if I just skip on my slides here, looking at some approaches. The traditional approach to well-being before the rise in attention of it was it to be a reactive. So an employee would have an issue, and that issue would be taken to a manager and resolved. So it's very reactive, and you would expect to see a 3-to-1 return on that approach. But if it's more proactive, more health promoting, then you could expect to see between 5-to-1 or even 6-to-1 types of returns. A little bit about me, where my journey here. So as John mentioned, I've come from a background in sports science, you know, beginning at Ulster Rugby and then progressing on to be the first sports scientist for England Rugby up until 2012. And, you know, my responsibility was to develop and deliver a world-class data analysis service to support the team and then obviously the management. And then after 2012, I started working more as a consultant from Belfast, supporting a number of teams in the Premier League or other rugby union teams, and working with other data projects in relation to fitness, fatigue, or recovery. And then in 2015, I pivoted a little bit into working with leadership programs with the health service here in Northern Ireland. And then I focused on well-being and resilience with executives across a number of different organizations, and even a fatigue project with Transport for London, looking at the reconstruction of Liverpool Street and Whitechapel stations. And then this evolved into wider health and wellbeing consultancy work for the likes of Graham, Devonish, Danske and Allstate, and even more recently for the staff at the Premier League again. One of the clients, Graham, they're obviously a construction company based headquarters in Hillsborough, but with multiple sites all around the UK and Ireland. And this man in the middle is Michael Smith, who's the HR director, and he looks after 2,500 staff across all those sites. So I've been working with Graham since 2016, and I've helped them to reduce their absenteeism by 100% and increase their participation in wellbeing activities by 50%. And then in December 18, this is also on stage in London at the IIP Awards, winning the inaugural Excellence in Health and Wellbeing. So I remember this evening very well, because on the journey home, Michael asked me if I would consider creating a physical activity-based challenge for their staff for the summer ahead. They'd previously done step-based challenges, which I know a number of organizations would be familiar with. They've done it in past years, but Michael listed a number of limitations about that, and they didn't want to repeat it. and basically offered me an opportunity to produce an alternative because he couldn't find anything else out there in the marketplace, or any alternatives to step challenges. So I like the approach. I love physical activity and the impact it can have. So when it's done very well, a focus on physical activity can bring about multiple health and well-being benefits, as well as engagement. So if I go round the wheel here, so we got physical health, obviously. So you've got reduced disease risk, improved energy and your immune system. You cope better with stress. You live and eat and sleep better. Mental well-being. So you have that reduced risk of anxiety, the connection with nature that we're promoting this week, reduced risk of depression and other mental health conditions. And then, of course, you have the chemical benefits of exercise, those wonderful endorphins, and the ability to actually grow a person's confidence as they get out and start to feel better about themselves, and maybe even start to achieve things that they didn't think they could do. Socially, obviously, with COVID restrictions, it's a little bit hindered, but you can still bring, physical activity can still bring people together, even if it's virtual. And it can be used to galvanize teams and engage an entire community. And then environment, as I mentioned, you can, if you promote more physical activity like active travel, you can reduce your carbon footprint. And then in terms of occupation, you can really positively impact and influence the culture, the morale, the creativity of employees, and also the performance and all the wonderful knock-on benefits that will bring. You know, because ultimately it comes back to having healthy employees. This means less days off work due to sickness, increased productivity, more talent acquisition potential, and lower employee turnover. You know, for example, the social media firm Hootsuite, they allow 1 hour exercise break during working hours, as long as it doesn't coincide with other meetings or work. So the staff have the ability to choose when they take their hour during the day, and they see that investment comes back through improved job performance and cost savings. So they have a motto, you know, companies that sweat together stay together. But I must urge caution, because if it was simple, we'd all be doing it. If group physical activity interventions aren't done well, they can also backfire. They can create and have a negative rebound. We got to respect that workforces are very diverse in multiple different ways, including how people like to do activity and exercise. So it's not exactly a straightforward solution. As I mentioned, one of the most common ways to impact staff movement or more physical activity in the workplace is through those step challenges. But as Michael indicated to me, these had major limitations, and I confirmed that with other businesses I spoke to that were using step challenges as a way to engage and motivate staff. Ultimately, they're one-dimensional, they're quite boring, and they have a very high drop-off, whether it's during or immediately after. They're totally biased towards people who are more active or have more active roles in their work, or people with just lots more free time. So it's these people that will be excelling in the challenge, and that's not necessarily the target market, target population of the staff that we want to reach into. So it's all about competition, and it's all based on volume. So how much you can do, i.e. the most steps wins. So there's a winner, that means there's a loser. And it's not a level playing field, because people don't have the same amount of time. People don't have the same amount of ability or fitness. It's totally unfair for the cyclists, for those doing yoga, the ones going to the gym and doing weights, or people who like the garden, parents who push prams, they don't count steps because the tracker doesn't pick them up, or wheelchair users, of course. You know, so it's inappropriate for disabled staff. It's also a constant measurement. So your step challenge is never off until it's finished. So some staff lose sleep, get up early to do their steps, or they walk the streets till midnight, and it can also ruin people's holidays. That was coming loud and clear from the staff at Graham. Thinking about those walk the streets to midnight, you know, that can be unsafe. It can be dark nights, lone walking. inappropriate areas. So it's not something I necessarily think we want to try and promote. And then it's an unconscious measurement. You put a device on your wrist and you just get about your day, and you maybe glance once or twice. So it doesn't have any real thinking, front of mind process about doing physical activity. And so there's no deep behavior change in there. And then lastly, it requires that device. So it's not always appealing to wear. And it creates an extra expense, and there's P11D issues. Also, does 10,000 steps a day cover all the necessary physical activity requirements? Karen, finally, if you can maybe put that poll number 2 back up again for me. There we go. So how much physical activity should you do? I'm amazed every time I give these talks, the number of people that don't really understand how much activity, what's the minimum level that we should try to accomplish. You know, it does, like my previous question there, does it just, is our daily target 10,000 steps a day and then we're done? That's that area covered? Or is it a little bit more complex than that? Does it go a little further? Let's see what the answers are. Okay, so 41% saying all of the above, which is the right answer. Apart from, of course, the 150 minutes of moderate or 75 minutes, that's an either or. But yeah, we should always be doing at least 7,500 steps a day. We should be doing at least 150 minutes of moderate intensity activity. We should be doing 2 or more strengthening activities every week, and we should limit our daily sedentary time. So all of the above is kind of true. So, and of course, you get, the more intense you can make your activity, the bigger the return. So almost like there's a return on investment in the quality and the quantity of what you do. Okay, so let's skip on to the next. So here's that graphic. This is World Health Organization. As I've just explained, that there's something called MVPA, moderate to vigorous physical activity, and they've slightly shifted to the fact they used to say that it had to be at least 10 minutes long for it to count. They've realized that not everybody is even doing that, so they've backtracked. That is a true statement, but they've backtracked it a bit to say just something is better than nothing. But this is our target. You know, our kids should be doing double what we're doing, and we should all be doing at least 2 muscle strengthening activities. You could probably build in a case here for muscle lengthening activities as well. All right, so whenever I set about creating my 100-day challenge for Graham's, it was all about these WHO guidelines and meeting and exceeding them. So not on steps at all. There's plenty of step challenges out there. So I took away the steps altogether, but I want to focus on activities like walking, running, cycling, strength training, yoga, gardening, dancing, and I built a game around it. So one of its most important things is that it's fully inclusive across the workforce. So staff can have freedom of choice over what activity they want to do. And they only needed a smartphone to log their activity, so they don't need an external device. So they already have those. And then we create a points limit, a point scoring system, which helps create a level playing field, because in a workforce, you'll have extremely fit and extremely competitive people, and you'll have extremely unfit or inactive people who may also be very, very competitive, but then you'll also have people who are not competitive whatsoever. So it's not bringing a competition to the workplace will appeal to some and not to everybody. So it is a bit of a difficult, complex beast to get it right. But you've got to think of the majority. You want to try and get everyone in the gate and motivate everyone along that full spectrum. So the 100-day challenge kicked off in the summer of 19, and it's been through 4 development versions since then. Over 1,000 users and 40 organizations, and lots of lessons learned. And then in January this year, it took a big development leap after Etex chose to roll it out to 5,000 of their staff across 42 countries, and it's in 16 languages. It's part of their global branding initiative. So Mal's going to tell you all a little bit about that soon, and the decision why he wanted to do it. Just out of curiosity, my final poll, if you want to throw that up for me, Karen, just interested, what is your favorite activity? So I appreciate there's probably a longer list than this, but this is as many as Zoom would allow us. So if this list doesn't include your favorite activity, your next favorite activity. Okay, let's reveal the answers. All right, so that's really interesting. So we walk, we'd expect to see most people's favorite activities be walking, but look at the diversity across all the different ones. So in just a small number dialing into Zoom, we got to think across that across the workforce the importance of including everybody. So if we have the steps challenge going on, the people who like strength training, yoga, maybe even CrossFit or swimming or cycling, they maybe feel a little bit excluded because it's not a steps challenge maybe doesn't quite meet a measurement requirement for what they do. Okay, let's close that off and quickly go on to the next one. So as I mentioned, lots and lots of activities is where to go. And the reason, there's real clear reasons for this. You know, it's about measuring activities rather than the unconscious measurement. We bring it to conscious measurement, and the staff have freedom of choice. And this action actually is where we get some deep behavior change happening. Ultimately, it promotes time management and habit formation. So when you wake up in the morning, you got to think, what activity am I going to do? When am I going to do it? And then you make sure that you finish work at 4:30, so you have all your work done, so that you've got 30 minutes before you need to head home to do whatever activity it is you do, or whatever way you schedule your day. But it impacts on your scheduling. Everyone can ultimately participate. So, and we can do it in individuals or teams or departments or whole organizations. It's multi-dimensional, but with limits to create a level playing field. And ultimately, people need strategy. Now, where you get fun in a game is when you've got to think about a strategy, and you've got to try to not just do as much as you can, but you've got to do it in a smarter way. That's when people start to go, this is fun, because it's really making me think. It also, the way I've structured the 100-day challenge was about encouraging diversification. So people who normally walk, we want them to try and do something else, and make it into a bit of yoga or a bit of Pilates or a bit of something else, do the garden as well as. So it breaks them out of their traditional routine and into something new. And then we create an interactive leaderboard. So it's not about who's top of the leaderboard. We have ways to create your own leaderboard based on the things that you like to do, so that you can start to compare and kind of make something suit you. So it's all about finding your own motivation, what keeps you going. And, you know, underneath all of that core is really not only are we meeting the physiological needs of the World Health Organization's guidelines, but we're also we're also implanting some behavioral change psychology research here. So things like to find motivation, you need to have capability and you need to have opportunity. They're the three magic ingredients. But the challenge ultimately creates this by making people plan, schedule, then commit and cost some sort of effort to meet those guidelines. And then the measurement process is critical, and the reward from seeing your points in the leaderboard and how you're doing against other people that are doing it in a similar way to you. That's where you get that deep behavior change and habit formation. And we do that, the ultimate 4 ways to score points would be, you've got dailies, you've got then milestones. So these are set targets for each activity, which are worth mega points. And then the consistency. So it's that, can you do 30 minutes every day and if you can have a run of days of this, then you're going to get more points. And then the bonus points give a bit of freedom. So we have weekly bonus points that allow people to sort of do a weekly task. So there's motivation on a regular basis. So that's kind of the core offering. So the program, that's the first 2 years of the program, it looked like this. So we create a connection. We use Strava as a main source to pull activity data in, and also we have an online manual entry form, and then people have a dashboard view which is totally interactive, and they can see how the group's doing, or how a subgroup's doing, or how themselves personally are doing, and this was visited every day by participants. So just to share you a few quick insights around, so that we're looking at inclusivity, motivation, time management, and the impact it has on family life, that level playing field and the ability to get outdoors with the activities. It enhances communication and that peer recognition of effort as well. What they said was about morale, well-being, health, engagement, even enjoyed the friendly style of competition. And then just to kind of wrap up a little bit, so yesterday we had a press release with Invest in I. They've supported me massively over the last 12 months, particularly on the design program. So I've been involved in Design Active and Design Forward, and that's helped to put a brand behind this 100-day challenge, as well as give me some legal and marketing support. So this has led to the whole sort of creation of a new look, a new feel, a really exciting beginning of what is, how the 100-day challenge is now transformed into a brand I'm now calling Oopla. So Oopla is my new hobby, my new toy that I'm going to be concentrating on and hopefully bring into a business near you soon. It's really an online physical activity game. It's now come down from 100 days to a rolling 28 days. Oopla kind of means it's a rally cry to say, let's go, let's get up and do something. Or it's maybe a greeting. You might say Oopla to somebody you see doing a bit of activity, or whenever you hit one of your milestones, you'll maybe shout Oopla. So it's a universal word, and hopefully something that we'll all get familiar saying whenever we're exercising. So it's being brought to a number of workplaces so far, and lots of positive business testimonials. And then we're going to hear from Malcolm in a moment here about his rollout of Oopla across the Etex global environment. So I'm going to pause there, let Malc jump in here and explain to you what you're doing. But thanks for listening. Oopla.
Hi everyone, Johnny, thank you very much, really great. Welcome everyone. Thanks firstly to inviting me to present. Let me just share my screen so we've got everything in the right place. Let me make sure I share my sound as well. Hopefully everyone can see my screen and everything's good there. Look, I'll be very brief. I wanted to, so Johnny's been through a lot of the stuff on Oopla and what it does, and I wanted to just give you an idea of how it works within a more multinational global organization as well. Really briefly, look, who are we? We're what? We're 110 years old at Etex. We operate in 42 countries. We have legal entities in 42 countries around the world. We've got about 11,000 teammates. I'll explain why we call them teammates in a minute. We're split into 4 major divisions. And then in terms of financials, where are we? Our revenue, we disposed of a major part of our business last year, so our revenue dropped to 2.6 billion, down from just nearly 3 billion. More importantly, our free cash flow, we've been working significantly on that in the last few years. We're glad to say that since the last disposal, we're actually debt free as well. So we're in a very strong position as an organization going forward. But it's no longer about financials. It's no longer good enough that we pop round to the countries every year, as we used to do 5 years ago as a financial holding, and check on our rebate and check on our dividends from all the local businesses. These days, we're structured a lot more. We're structured around our key commercial brands. At the heart of it, we have safety. We have safety at the beginning. The key part of it is safety. So we put safety above anything else. We are a manufacturing business, so employee or teammate safety comes first. We have a strong executive committee. Some of them have been with the business for 40 odd years. Some of them are new to the business. So we have a mixture of experience from different industries and also experience within the culture of our organization. And we talk about in what we call our 3-pillar agenda. So we talk about, of course, operational performance. So how do we constantly improve our processes and also commit to safety? We talk about profitable growth. So growth isn't just good enough, it has to be profitable, as we know, and we have to innovate to ensure our closeness to customers. And our 3rd pillar is engaged people. So engage teammates through unity, through shared values, through shared leadership principles, and through a common sense of belonging. Now, 3-4 years ago, we started on our journey, which is a purpose journey. So at the top, you see inspiring ways of living, and you see our why, our how, our what. And we came back to the strapline of inspiring ways of living. It's been in the organization for 20 years, but actually we've become more of a purpose-driven organization. And the purpose has driven mergers and acquisitions. It's also driven how we perform and how we behave as well as a business. What does this mean? Do you know, 12 months ago, we started a campaign called United to Inspire. So we relaunched Etex under the new purpose as an organization. And we wanted to bring these teammates together. And we wanted people to be part of the same team. And the reason why we use teammates and not colleagues or employees or staff or anything else like that is because it takes a team of people to solve global challenges such as urbanization, such as resource scarcity and everything else, and also to serve our customers better. It requires management, it requires owners, it requires a leadership team, it requires management, it requires HR, it requires finance people, it requires people on the factory floor to deliver. Because ultimately, without the whole team, we can't deliver to our customers. And it's the reason why we use it as teammates and we unite people under that team spirit. So we started this in February last year. And we held about 120 town halls in about 38 countries around the world. And we were very fortunate that we held it in February. We were able to go away, get out the message of Etex out to everybody, talk about how we were united to inspire and how we wanted to inspire ways of living for the future. And you'll see some of the town halls here, from the first ones in Hong Kong with the first signs of COVID, through the last ones in the middle in the UK just before we shut down, to the latest one in China in the bottom right, which was held at the beginning of this year, post-COVID as well. But more importantly, we had this atmosphere coming together, this sense of unity, simple things, a common t-shirt for all. And like most businesses for a few months in 2020, we shut down, we put people on furlough, but people were sharing their images of them either working at home or out for exercise and actually feeling part of that one team. And it was really great to see, and it kept people motivated. And during the COVID period, of course, we focused on our teammates' well-being. And one of the great things that came back out the back of it is through our annual survey, is 93% of the teammates said we did the right thing in terms of the safety measures we put in place during the COVID crisis. The shot here, of course, is pre-COVID. The social distancing is still in place in a lot of our factories, but all our factories were back up and operational within 3 months because of the demand in all the different countries. What does it mean? So we do an annual survey. We do an annual engagement survey because across 11,000 people, it's easier to do an annual survey together to make sure we're consistent. Now, we first did our annual survey in 2018. We didn't do one in 2019, but we've rolled it back into an annual one going forward. The 2021 is due in a couple of months' time. We saw the overall engagement figure in 2018 very low before we launched the purpose and before we relaunched Etex. We've increased it up to 78. We know there's still some more to do. We got an 80% response rate from across the business. So what were 13,000 members of teammates at the time, we got an 80% response rate around the world, which was outstanding. And you see the scores in terms of we're keeping employees informed about matters affecting us, and the fact that they work with people that want to collaborate, which means doing more as a business. And overall, the teammates felt that we care about their well-being, and they felt that through all the activities we've been doing. And of course, COVID had a huge impact on our organization. So in 2021, we had to take the next step and we had to look at what we were going to do instead. So we went through a program of what's going to reunite us in 2021. So you see the sports shirt I'm wearing, and there's a whole load of stuff. And at the center of it is Oopla and the Etex, what we call the Etex Challenge. And we branded it internally as the Etex Challenge. But you start to see more engagement topics through Facebook, through Strava and things like that as well. And we've produced the playbook in the bottom left in 15 different languages. We've printed it, we've given it out to staff. We've understood the drivers. So as Johnny showed on his screen about Some people join because they want to be a better person themselves. Some people join because they want to give their colleagues a better version of themselves, and they want to do the best for the team. Some people join because they want to be fitter and healthier, and they want the company to succeed. We do see that quite often. And other people join because they want to make the world a better place. And to support that, there's also a charity prize fund that goes with this as well. We spent a lot of time and money investing in not only just around the communication, and I will share with you just one of the things we've done, and this has been translated into multiple languages. This is one of the launch videos we put together.
What makes Etex strong is us.
Teammates.
So if we can look after ourselves and stay healthy,
Etex will keep moving forward too.
So join
the Etex Challenge.
Do it for a healthy body and mind.
Do it for team spirit.
do it to give our customers your very best.
And do it to help a charity.
Together, we make Etex stronger.
And the great thing about this video is there's no actors. All the people that you see in that video are teammates of Etex, and they were, even during COVID times, we were very lucky to have a diverse and inclusive mixture of staff based within Belgium where we shot the video. To give you an idea of how it's working, we're now week 2 into our first 28-day challenge with Oopla. In the first week alone, we were over 2,000 active teammates. We were 3,000 teammates who'd registered within Oopla as well. In the first week, we'd logged over 50,000 kilometers of activity. Yeah, on walk, cycle, run, swim, and everything else. Belgium alone logged 10,000 kilometers of cycling in a week. We'd logged over 2,350 hours of activity on top of that. And you see on the left how you've got all 42 countries in the Oopla leaderboard. So at that moment in time, Sweden was leading, Hong Kong was following up, and it's fully inclusive. You see the take-up rates on the chart in front of you. So you see that in some countries, the smaller countries, we've got 100% take-up, but even on the larger countries where we've got thousands of staff like the UK and France, we're still aiming at 40, 35, 20%, 25% take-up as well, which is amazing results because we don't expect everyone to sign up. And the impact's been amazing. We've got nearly 850 people in our Strava club now. And every day I log on and I give kudos to everyone in that club. And the images, these are just some of the images just from 2 days on Strava of people in their sports shirts, feeling proud that they work for this organization. And any engagement program, there's plenty of engagement programs out there, but making it fun and making it enjoyable is something that's really come back through this. People are proud to wear this shirt. People want to share the different activities they're doing. And whether or not it's running, whether or not it's boxing, whether or not it's cycling, maybe it's just me out for a sunny walk, but people are there all the time. And it's great to see the photos, and it really binds us together as a global team. And again, for those that aren't in Strava, you see them on Facebook, in our Facebook community as well. And again, they're sharing images of them getting the t-shirts ready in the middle in Poland. Just like to the left, you may just be able to see on your screens, the Lithuanian team mapped out the words Etex on Strava. So they walked the words Etex, so it all came up on the screen. You see people in Argentina on their bicycle. You see people in Argentina climbing glaciers as well. This is what it's about, being fully inclusive. It's amazing to see that, one of the greatest things we see is not only are we doing this in 42 countries, so from, let's say, from Australia through Indonesia, which they all have access, and we don't discriminate against anyone in Indonesia joining this challenge. They all have the ability to join through their smartphone. Through the Middle East, through Japan, through Africa, through Nigeria, South Africa, through all of Europe, across to North America, and then through Latin America. And even on confinement in Latin America, where they are confined to being inside to certain hours a day, they're still getting involved. And it's truly humbling to see. What's even been more humbling to see is the number of countries, it's about 20% of them, that have logged wheelchair activities. And we never considered this when we signed up for the Oopla, but it's amazing to see how inclusive it has been for the entire population around the world. Where next? Do you know, there are hundreds of things we could be doing, yeah? But our focus here, especially this week in Mental Health Awareness Week, but over the next 3 months, is having mentally stronger teammates within our organisation. Every organisation has had a tough 2020. We've put upon our staff more than any other year. We've got staff who are really struggling to get into factories, who are travelling on public transport, and we need to make sure that we have their well-being. But also the staff at home who have that Zoom fatigue, who are doing longer hours and everything else. We need them to be mentally stronger. We need to show that we're supporting them as an organisation. So we're running UPLA, what we call the Etex Challenge within our business, across 3 of those 28-day sessions. So near on the 100 days. So we're running it in between April and July. It's really great because it works 2 ways for ourselves. It means that we have a pre-summer spring fitness for those in Europe, and for those in Latin America and the Southern Hemisphere, it's pre-winter as well. So we have very few windows that we can do this as a global organisation. But the response has been amazing. We didn't expect to get to, we signed up for 5,000. We were happy to get to 3,000. We keep growing every day. We keep seeing the number of kilometres increase. And the vibe within the business over the last 2 months the last 3 weeks has been in particular absolutely wonderful. You hear about meetings starting where they're talking about not just business, but talking about fun and what they're doing for the challenge, how they're connecting together and how they're working together as a team. I'm really looking forward to what we call the Me and Etex engagement survey results that will come out over the summer to see what an impact it's had. But John, Karen, everybody at Chartered Accountants, thank you very much for inviting me. Johnny, great presentation as well. But of course, if anybody has any questions, we're here.
Thank you so much for that, Johnny and Mal. Really interesting. Before I came on this morning, I was feeling a little virtuous about my steps challenge that I done earlier. I am feeling much less virtuous about that now. But like just some of that was great. Some of the stuff that resonated with me. Johnny, a couple of things that you raised, you know, actually it was in the large corporates that there was so much deterioration. And I suppose, you know, sometimes you think that the large corporates have more ability to put these programs in place kind of thing. So that was interesting for me. And also whenever you put up this slide of the different types of companies and the cost of those, I suppose it just occurred to me that a lot of the high cost industries were in the service sector. And I suppose, look, as a group of finance professionals, we need to be aware of that. And Malk, just in terms of that program going across Etex and going across such a global, diverse business and implement that, and I think some of the screenshots that you shared with us were brilliant. You know, the engagement and the activity. So I know you're just into the program, but it certainly sounds as if it's getting traction. So thanks so much for that, and hopefully it has inspired some of our listeners. Well, I have a few questions that are already in, and I'll just remind all attendees, just if you want to put a question in for either Johnny or Malk, just use the Q&A function on Zoom. We already have a few in. First one I'm going to come to you on, Johnny, and it's hopefully an easy one, but question is, what is VOI, and can you just expand on what VOI means?
So I put up a slide there about ROI, which I'm sure everyone is familiar with, that return on investment. But there's this new term that's coined called VOI. It's probably been generated through the frustration of well-being, the well-being sector, because generating an ROI, direct ROI. So if I bring in a wellness program and it costs X, you know, what exactly is going to be the output of this? And it's I think people said earlier on about looking after your well-being. It is a grey area. It's also this is also a grey area. But the VOI represents the value on investment. So it's not necessarily going to have that direct spend £1, get £5 back. It's not that obvious, because it, as you can see what Malk's doing, the value on the investment is transforming how people feel about their employer, their entire organization, and their teammates, and that's much more difficult to put a pound symbol beside.
And is there any way, Johnny, that you, like, how would you say to people to measure their VOI? Let's say what one of our people put in some program. How can you try and measure that, or are there ways?
I think I put a sentence in one of my slides. Was like it's engagement is like the key metric for the success of a program. So you can see here from Malk a number of times there, he's talking about engagement again and again and again. It's like you get engaged staff, you get people who are interested in doing their best for their employer.
Yeah, brilliant, thank you, Malk. We'll come to you with this question, and I suppose, you know, look, Etex obviously a massive group, massive business. Very focused on what you would expect business to be focused on, revenue, profit, and all of the rest. You come along with this great idea to senior management, and you try to sell it to the board around fun, engagement, taking people away from their work, stepping outside of work. Did you get any skepticism? Did you get any negativity from senior management around that, or how did you address that, you know, to get the buy-in to let people step away from their desk?
Actually, we've been very fortunate. We've become this purpose-driven organization, so we understand the need. There's more. Of course, we still need to give shareholder return. We still need to give profit. But actually, we understand what our place is within the world. Yeah, and we understand, and we've done this for a number of reasons, including attracting future talent. Yeah, because it's not just because the teammates of the future aren't going to come and work for us just because we give them a salary. So we've looked at this engagement program over the world, and the challenge itself, I think, yeah, there was this skepticism going, yeah, it's a good idea. Some people might do it. I don't think any of us, I know I said to Johnny, we'll sign up for 5,000 because let's just take a random figure. But I don't think any of us expected to get to 3,000 within 2 weeks of the challenge starting. And there's a whole visible felt leadership. So we see it within the business. We see people stressed. We see people stuck at home and everything else. And the timing of this for us as an organization couldn't have been better. It's 2021. We see the vaccine rollout. We see people wanting to get outside and rebuild themselves in 2021. I've got the full support of the executive committee. I've got the full support of the board on this. It's really great to see. And they appreciate that people are starting work at 7 a.m. in some countries. We allow them to go and take half an hour out of their time or an hour out of their time when they want to, because we know they're engaged and they're still doing their work. So it's a change of culture and change of thinking from you must be at your desk between 9 and 5, but we see the payback.
Yeah, and I think certainly from my experience, we're seeing more of that payback as a result of COVID whenever we're doing a lot of working from home. So as an example, like I'll admit, I actually struggled for the first couple of months stepping away from my desk. Almost had that feeling of guilt when I was going away from the desk. Whenever it got into the lighter mornings, I'm about a 20-minute walk from my local town, and I sort of got up early, done a walk into my town, got a coffee and walked back. And actually it was the best thing for a bit of headspace. And that 40-minute walk gave me time to think, what am I to do? What am I going to do? What do I prioritize? And absolutely, I have no doubt that my next couple of hours, whenever I came back to my desk, were much, much more efficient because I had taken that wee bit of headspace time. So hopefully that's recognized a bit more. Johnny, I'm going to come to you on this question. Small businesses are increasingly using external HR specialists or consultants to ensure that they are complying with employment legislation. Does employment law need to be updated to enhance employers' health and well-being obligations?
I don't know. I don't know if I'm qualified to provide an answer to that. I'm certainly happy to share an opinion. I think it comes back to our first poll. You know, is it the responsibility of the employers? I mean, certainly you heard from Malk there. Safety is critical, but of course, safety is always the actual full term is health and safety. But people focus on the 90% or 99% on the safety side, and that's all legislated. The health side, it is a bit more grey area, and you know, you can see here by what Malk's doing, it's choice. it's convinced the board we need to do this because it's going to be good for us. It's going to be good for our employees, but it's also going to have a return, that VOI. So it isn't just a it's nice to do this, or it's not a government you've got to do this. It's a performance-led decision. It's like, if we do this, we will be better. So I think, as I've spoken, I'll probably form my own opinion here. I said, I don't necessarily think we need to look for government to say you've got to do this. I think it's down to the employers to evaluate the value in doing it and choose to do it. You know, if I come back, look at sports teams, you know, you've got a set of rules that you comply with. You've got fixtures that you compete at, but how you prepare and play and prepare for that game is up to you. So I think it's the same scenario here.
Yeah, and I'll stick with you on this for one, Johnny. You know, you touched on the benefit of good health and well-being programs, the impact on those around recruitment and retention. And you know, that's starting to feature much more in the leagues of, you know, top companies to work for and stuff like that. Are you starting to see that really play into corporates' agenda for attracting talent and retaining talent? Are you seeing that really happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the companies that are ahead of the curve at the moment are the ones that are thinking, right, this is, we have to build a culture for the future workforce here. The future workforce are very, very savvy where they go, because they're going to have more freedom of choice, particularly if the world continues to work from home and location doesn't necessarily matter. So you might actually get to the point where you've got employees who could work for your company for 2 to 5 years and never be in the same room as another employee. So location doesn't matter. I could go and apply for, organizations don't have that leverage of we're city center based, and you know, you have all the amenities around this around this building. It doesn't matter anymore, because the world has kind of changed, and the future workforce are going to be very, very savvy. They don't necessarily care about the prestige of the badge of the company they work for. They're more interested in the quality of the work they're going to do and the work-life balance they're going to achieve from that. That's how I feel the future's going to go.
Yeah, super. Thank you. Just conscious of time, I have one question, Malc, I want to come to you on, and I suppose it's just around where do you see this all going for Etex? So, you know, you've recently implemented this. There's been a real buzz around, you know, employees getting engaged and motivated on it. So wrapping into that question, and where do you see this going? Do you see that the momentum can be sustained, and also in a sort of COVID world where you have people working at home and people working in the office, where do you see the UPLA going within your organization?
I think so. We see, I think UPLA we see as a long-term, what we call in marketing, an evergreen project. I think it's something that will come back onto our calendar every year. So at the moment, Chile's on lockdown. We know France is on a 10-kilometer radius, so people are doing it before their 10 p.m. their 8 p.m. curfew. We see in Indonesia it's slightly different. Around the world, UPLA is accessible. It's really great. And we see us bringing the Etex challenge back with UPLA every year. I think it's something that really binds people together. I think there's going to be lots of other activities we do to enhance that team spirit, but do you know the impact this has had just on the connect? Do you know, we are a global company, but we want to be a local team. Yeah, we want to make people feel they're all part of this global organization, and UPLA is just one of those many things that have really enabled that to happen. And Johnny's part of our Facebook group, and he gets to see the posts every single day. I'm very, very humble of what UPLA has enabled us to do within the organization. It's not a steps challenge. It's really inclusive, and it's a lot of fun. And Mental Health Week, we give permission to say it's okay to not be okay. In Mental Health Week, this is us giving permission to say, go outside, go and connect with nature, go and take a break. It's okay to just turn your computer off and walk away and come back when you're ready and more efficient.
Yeah, brilliant, super. Listen, thanks, Johnny, both to yourself and Malc, to you for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. Really, really interesting. And I'm a little jealous of the program now. I want to try and get onto something like that. So look, I'm conscious that the bottom right-hand corner of my computer is saying it's now 9:32. So I'm going to bring the session to a close. On behalf of all the attendees, thanks Johnny and Malc for a really, really good session. Hopefully we have all been challenged and motivated to spend some time away from our screens and spreadsheets and consider and encourage our colleagues to consider prioritizing time for our own mental and physical health and seeing the benefits both for ourselves and for our business. So look, thanks guys, and best wishes for UPLA and best wishes for the implementation and use of UPLA. And thanks to all our attendees for joining. And can I wish you a productive and sunny Tuesday. Thank you.